6:15 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Dilini Gunawardena and read by Geethanjali Ramanayaka. The headlines. Minor flood warnings are issued for low-lying areas of Daduroya. A delegation of the World Bank inspects the climate-smart irrigated agriculture project. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena says that economic issues have no political resolutions. It is emphasized that the economy cannot be stabilized just by collecting tax. University of Moratuwa is recommended to conduct a formal study on the information management system of the Ministry of Health. Foreign news, the UN says hundreds and hundreds of patients are stuck in hospitals in the north of Gaza. In sports, it's Cricket World Cup. The match between Sri Lanka and Afghanistan is currently underway. The NBRO has issued early landslide warnings to 8 districts of the island. Accordingly, Ratnapura, Badulla, Colombo, Galle, Hambantota, Kalutara, Kurunegala and Matra districts have been issued warnings. 11 divisional secretariats of the Ratnapura district have been issued level 2 landslide warnings. Meanwhile, the irrigation department mentions that a considerable rainfall is reported from the catchment areas of the Daduroya reservoir. The Daduroya reservoir, which is maintained by the irrigation department, is filling with a discharge rate of 14,000 cubic feet per second currently, and there is a possibility of increasing the spill discharge of the reservoir. Accordingly, the residents of the low-lying areas of the Daduroya Valley in Variapula, Nikavaratiya, Mahava, Kobeikane, Bingiriya, Pallama, Chilau, Arachikattua and Rasanayakapura Divisional Secretariat divisions are requested to be on alert. A delegation of the World Bank engaged in an observatory tour to look into the climate-smart irrigated agriculture project, which aims to improve the productivity and climate resilience of the smallholder agriculture in Sri Lanka. They visited the climate-smart irrigated agriculture training school in Anuradhapura yesterday in order to observe the progress of the project. The delegation, headed by the Managing Director of Operations of the World Bank, Anna Bayarde, arrived in the island on a request made by the President at a meeting with the Chairman of the World Bank. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena says that those who take part in strikes and picketing should elaborate on the means of increasing the salary of the government servants. He made this remark at a launching of the new bus from Peta to Koralima in Kahatudua. The country had to undergo a drastic economic crisis. Economic issues have no political resolutions. Therefore, accurate economic solutions should be sought to overcome the crisis. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. State Minister Shehan Semasinga says that the economy cannot be stabilized just by collecting tax. The government hopes to collect due tax from those who neglect paying tax through digitalization process. He made these remarks at a press conference held today at the Development Lottery Board. Reluctance to adjust to the current situation resulted in the economic crisis. The minister added that the president is committed to overcome the crisis situation and appreciated the contribution of the Development Lottery Board. The subcommittee appointed by the Sri Lanka's Parliamentary Committee on Public Accounts COPA made recommendations to the University of Moratuwa to conduct a formal study on the information management system of the Ministry of Health. This recommendation was made at the meeting of the same subcommittee recently. The officials of the Auditor General's Department pointed out that there are issues pertaining to the productivity of the information management system of the Ministry of Health. However, the officials of the Ministry of Health assured that this provides assistance to proper management of the health system. And that ends local news for now.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
State Minister of Finance Shehan Semasinga states that Aswasuma payments for the month of August will be credited to the beneficiary accounts on Wednesday. Meanwhile, the allowance for September will also be credited during the month of November. Semasinga further expressed that the Aswasuma applicants who were not selected for the benefit scheme due to technical and management issues will be screened once again during the Aswasuma week, which is due to be held from the 6th to the 12th of November. And that was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Wedamahatmaya.
On to Watchlight. The Department of Railways said train services on the up-country line have been disrupted owing to a derailment which took place this afternoon. Accordingly, the commuter train plying from Badulla to Colombo has derailed between Keenigama and Heeloya railway stations this morning. Efforts are underway in order to restore the train services on the up-country line as soon as possible, according to the department. And that came to you in Watchlight. Now moving on to a bulletin of world news. In the headlines, the UN says hundreds and hundreds of patients are stuck in hospitals in the north of Gaza. Indonesia candidates call on President to remain neutral ahead of the 2024 poll. And mob storms Russian airport in search of Jews. The UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees say hundreds and hundreds of patients are stuck in hospitals in the north of Gaza. Doctors say Israel told staff to evacuate the Al-Qaddas hospital in Gaza City on Sunday, but that moving patients, many of whom are in intensive care, is impossible. The Palestinian Red Crescent said Israeli airstrikes are continuing in the area. About 14,000 civilians are also understood to be sheltering in the hospital and its grounds. It comes as Israel's military says it's expanding its ground offensive in Gaza, saying troops killed dozens of terrorists during clashes overnight. Two potential successors of Indonesia's outgoing President Joko Widodo called on him to remain neutral in the run-up to next year's election amid public criticism he may be trying to retain power after leaving office. Presidential candidates Anies Baswedan and Ganjar Pranowo urged the leader to maintain neutrality ahead of the February 14, 2024 election. Democracy activists and political sources have raised concerns over what they see as a Jokowi's attempts to cling to power and build a political dynasty, especially after a recent court ruling tweaks eligibility criteria, allowing the president's eldest son, Gibran Raka, to join Pranowo's ticket. Israel has urged Russia to protect all its citizens and all Jews after a large mob, some shouting anti-Semitic slogans, stormed a Dagestan airport. Video footage on social media showed an angry Mashaka reported seeking people arriving from Tel Aviv. Some of the crowd ran into the runway and surrounded aircraft there. Russia's aviation agency said security forces later brought the situation under control. The airport will stay closed until tomorrow. And back to the headlines of the world news. The UN says that hundreds of patients are stuck in Gaza hospitals. Indonesia candidates call on President to remain neutral ahead of the 2024 poll, and mob storms Russian airport in search of Jews. And that ends World News.
Development News.
Direct flights between Turkey and Sri Lanka commence in effect from today. The first direct flight of Turkish Airlines from Istanbul to Colombo carried 261 passengers and reached the Bandaranaike International Airport this morning. A direct flight of Turkish Airlines from Istanbul to Colombo only takes 8 hours, and these direct flights have been scheduled for Monday, Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday. Each flight will leave Istanbul at 5:40 a.m. local time and depart Sri Lanka at 7:40 a.m. local time. And that was Development News.
Sports News is brought to you by Shakti. Refresh your mind and body. Shakti Energy Drink. 350 rupees only. Available at island-wide leading groceries and supermarkets. Shakti. Taste the power.
On to sports news. The cricket match between Sri Lanka and Afghanistan is currently underway in Pune. The Afghanistan won the toss and invited Sri Lanka to bat first. Sri Lanka were all out for 241 runs at the end of 49.3 overs. And that was sports news.
Shakti. Refresh your mind and body. Shakti Energy Drink. 350 rupees only. Available at island-wide leading groceries and supermarkets. Shakti. Taste the power.
Go ekak tiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු හීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account. NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Microelectric International Private Limited bagged yet another accolade to their expanding awards portfolio when they won the Special Commendation Award of the Medium Scale Enterprise category at the National Award of Excellence for the Best Supply Chain Practicing Organization 2023 recently at the Shangri-La Hotel in Colombo. The event was organized by the Institute of Supply and Materials Management in collaboration with the Ministry of Industries and Industrial Development Board. And that was Business News.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak tiyana youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු හීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account. NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
On to economic news. Sri Lanka's commercial banks have built private reserves or settled foreign loans of about $1.49 billion up to August as market interest rates reduced domestic credit based on official data. Net foreign assets of Sri Lanka's commercial banks went up to 322 billion rupees by end of August 2023 from a negative 153 billion in December. Central bank data showed. And that was economic news.
Weather report.
On to the weather report. The Met Department says showers or thundershowers will occur at several places in most provinces of the island. Showers or thundershowers will occur in the northern province and in the Puttlam district during the morning hours. Fairly heavy showers above 75 millimeters are likely at some places in the western, Sabaragamuwa, central, southern and Uva provinces and in the Kurunegala district. Misty conditions can be expected at some places in the Sabaragamuwa, central and Uva provinces during the morning. And that was the weather report. And prior to concluding this news broadcast, the headlines once again. Minor flood warnings are issued for low-lying areas of the Aduru Oya. A delegation of the World Bank inspects the climate-smart irrigated agriculture project. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena says that economic issues have no political resolutions. It is emphasized that the economy cannot be stabilized just by collecting tax. The University of Moratuwa is recommended to conduct a study on the information management system of the Ministry of Health. In foreign news, the UN says hundreds and hundreds of patients are stuck in hospitals in the north of Gaza. And sports, it's Cricket World Cup. The cricket match between Sri Lanka and Afghanistan is currently underway. Well, with that, we end this news broadcast from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation, and it's back to Mariela Vandot on the other side to keep you entertained this Monday evening. Over to you, Mariela.
Thank you, Geethanjali. That was Geethanjali Ramanayaka bringing you the main news broadcast right here from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. And here's to wishing you nothing but the best and to have a safe journey back home. The time moves on to 29 minutes past 6. This is Radio Sri Lanka.
Radio Sri Lanka.
97.4 FM.
Today's best.
Your songs all day.
And yesterday's classics.
Hello listeners, welcome to Views on Health. On the program tonight is Dr. Manitha Pereira, consultant physician, who last time around spoke on vitamin D deficiency. Tonight it's the safe use of steroids. Steroids, what are they? It's something that I think is very much cause for concern amongst the lay people, because it's been prescribed for specific reasons by doctors, and how it's being taken, for what it is being taken, and how it impacts on one's health is what today Dr. Manitha Pereira is going to speak about. Over to you, Doctor, on the safe use of steroids.
Yes, thank you, Fatima. So as you have mentioned, let's see what are steroids initially. So steroids are, a chemical compound. Steroids, chemical compound which is produced in our body naturally, using cholesterol through different glands, especially your adrenal glands and your gonads can produce, steroids. And some of these are steroid hormones. Now, the adrenal glands play a huge role in natural, steroidogenesis or steroid generation. And so adrenal gland essentially is a little gland on both sides sitting on top of your each kidneys. So these glands can produce an array of natural steroids. So you have your gonadal steroids, these are your sex hormones. And then you have adrenal steroids, which are broadly can be, things like cortisol and then mineralocorticoids. So essentially for a layperson's perspective, what do they do? So gonadal steroids, obvious, they maintain your sexual health. Then these other steroids, the adrenal steroids, are actually our stress hormones. So we are continuously exposed to stressful situations. Throughout our evolution also it has been the case. So these particular hormones are the set of hormones that keep you ready for the stress response. So it is essential to deliver the stress response and also to maintain the blood pressure. So steroids are essential to maintain a normal range of blood pressure and then also to maintain the normal levels of glucose. So steroids play an activity so that your blood glucose level remains within the safe limits. Then also your energy levels. When steroids are going low, you feel really weak. So it is essential to maintain your energy levels. So likewise, steroids, we are going to talk about their mainly harmful effects and how to use them safely. But essentially, they are a natural part of our life and they have good roles or physiological roles that helps us to, run through our day-to-day activities.
Thank you for that introduction to this topic on the safe use of steroids. Doctor, a question that really I think puzzles many people is that they say, especially when it comes to sports, they say these steroids have been taken by certain sports people, then they are of course tested, and if proven to be so, then they are banned or
disqualified.
Yes, yeah. Action is taken against them. So how does it happen? I mean, you say it's produces from within. It can be prescribed as well. So is it an over-the-counter drug?
Yeah. So before we move to that, let's talk about synthetic steroids now. We spoke about the natural steroids. Now let's talk about synthetic steroids. These are the ones that are being, produced by mankind. So synthetic steroids are used for different diseases. So it is a very good drug to control certain diseases. And in fact, before the invention of synthetic steroids by mankind, some other diseases that we take for granted today were actually deadly diseases. So there's no argument that steroids play a huge role in combating diseases. So your doctors might prescribe different synthetic steroids. People might be used to these names, things like dexamethasone, prednisolone, hydrocortisone, and the list goes on. And these can be as oral tablets. They can be injections to be given intravenous, as well as there are inhalers, steroid inhalers which are taken for asthma, and also steroid topical applications which are used for skin diseases. So you can see these are used in different forms in a wide range of medical illnesses. So if you look at what are the common conditions that doctors will actually prescribe you for steroids, because these are also listeners who should know about safe use of steroids. So if you are a patient with joint diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, briefly, not for long term, sometimes initially you might be on steroids. And then other joint conditions, any rheumatological diseases, your doctor might initially put you on steroids. And then also for asthma or chronic obstructive lung disease like COPD, you might be on an inhaler, or intermittently you might be on oral steroids as well sometimes during a severe exacerbation. Then also if you look at certain bowel diseases, then if you look at things like joint pains, and also even to the extent where we use steroids to treat certain cancers. So it has a wide range of therapeutic benefits. Blood disorders, cancers, many medical conditions, the doctors will actually prescribe you steroids. Now, prescribing steroids by a doctor is different to getting a steroid over the counter. So, it is not a very pleasant thing to mention, but yes, steroids are being delivered over the counter in Sri Lanka. But it should not be the case. We will know during the due course of this discussion why is it so. So one thing that you should remember is we are going to talk about safe use of steroid. Doesn't mean that you should stop the steroids which were given for your illness. These are the steroids which are given by your doctor with proper supervision, and in fact your doctor will also guide you on the things that I'm going to talk about. So we are going to discuss mainly about how to safely use these steroids and what to do and what not to do.
So tell us, doctor, how can it be used safely?
Yeah. So before we go there, let's see what happens when you take steroids from outside. Now I told you we have this, apart from gonadal steroids, we have the adrenal steroids. So adrenal gland is producing them. Now when you take steroids from outside, for whatever the reason, your body's adrenal goes into a state of, hibernation. The adrenal thinks, okay, the steroids are coming from outside, I have no work. So that is called adrenal suppression. So when you take steroids for long term from outside, your ability to naturally produce will go down. So that is called adrenal suppression. So this is a main problem with outside steroids. So what happens then? So say if you suddenly stop your steroid intake, or as you come through a stressful situation, I told you these hormones are needed for stress, and now your adrenals can't naturally produce the increased requirement which it otherwise would have produced. So what happens is you go into a state of steroid deficiency during this acute stress, or because you stopped it abruptly. And then I told you it is needed to maintain the blood pressure, sugar, and well-being. So then your blood pressure will dip, your sugars will dip, and you'll go into a state of shock with low BP, and this is an emergency, and that is called adrenal crisis. So any patient who's on long-term steroids is at a risk of adrenal crisis. So if you are a patient who's taking long-term steroids, you need to know that you can't be stopping it abruptly, and there are few things that you need to do if you are encountered with additional stress, like an additional infection or a surgery for that matter. So adrenal crisis is one of the problems that you might encounter with outside steroids. Then what else can go wrong? So when you take steroids, your blood sugar can increase. When you are taking it unmonitored especially, it can increase your risk of diabetes. salt imbalances, your electrolyte levels can go haywire. So you can get diabetes and electrolyte level abnormalities, and also then you can develop high blood pressure. When steroids are more in your system, it pushes you to develop high blood pressure. It upsets your lipids, so it increases your risk of heart attacks indirectly. Similarly, it can cause you to have fungal skin rashes. And you know diabetic patients have fungal skin rashes. So similarly, steroids can push you to develop fungal skin rashes, and also you might have your skin very thinned with easy bruising. So these are few things that can go wrong. Additionally, it can erode your tummy. So if you're having a lot of steroids, then it can erode your tummy and you can lose blood and become anemic. In the worst case scenario, you can actually have blood vomiting. So it is dangerous. So that is exactly why we need to keep a check on steroids when you take them. Then also, steroids can suppress your immunity. So immunity is essential to, combat infections. And when you're on long-term steroids, either part of your, treatment for another disease, invariably your immunity is going to be low. So you're more prone to infection and you have to be extra vigilant about, catching infections. So that is another aspect of it. Then also it can upset your mood. Larger doses of steroids can cause depression, sometimes psychosis. So it can upset your mood. And long-term steroids can also upset your vision. It can cause cataract, glaucoma. So there can be a lot of problems associated with unmonitored use of steroids.
So, doctor, that is a big range of ailments that one can have with the use of it.
Yeah.
But in the day it is essential. It is, if a doctor prescribes it and you take it accordingly, it serves a purpose. So at any point in time, would you then, you have a patient and you say you need to take this medication, the drug, and then would you say, no, it's enough, you stop?
Yes. Good question. So now, as you can see, there can be a lot of complications by use of steroids. But then, as you said, and as I have also mentioned, it is an essential thing which was there naturally. And for certain medications, certain illnesses, it is an essential medication. So as I mentioned, if your doctor gives it, your doctor has a technical knowledge to, keep you safe from these ailments. So he will do the right job. And also, as you have asked, steroids is not something that you prescribe for too long in too large doses. So initially, to get the, some difficult disease under control, you might introduce steroids as an essential part of treatment. But then as the disease come under control, we go into a state called steroid sparing. So essentially what we do is we gradually reduce the steroid dose, keeping the control of the disease, monitoring for it, and then introduce other drugs which are not steroids, which can maintain this control which was achieved by the steroids. So thereby we gradually reduce the steroid dose, and most of the time we give our best chance to come off them completely. So that is how you medically tackle it. So yes, there could be a lot of side effects, but then again your doctor will timely reduce the dose and take you off steroids so that you get the benefit of it rather than the side effect of it.
So like you come across patients who abuse. So therefore now you have said stop. But maybe after about a week or 2 weeks or whatever period of time, the patient might think, now I don't feel that good. When I had the steroids, I was okay like this, but now I'm not. So maybe I should start again. So therefore, unfortunately, if they can buy it over the counter, which it shouldn't happen, but it's happening, do you think therefore their condition can again deteriorate?
Yes, it can definitely. They are exposed to all the side effects we spoke about. And I think we need to mention a very important side effect, that is it thins your bones and push you to osteoporosis and fractures as well. So let's see how to do this safely now. Now we saw certain issues in this country. So let's talk about how to tackle steroids safely. So first thing, it has to be a prescription drug. You can't be taking steroids over the counter for any ailment, for that matter. So it has to be a prescription drug, and your indication for steroid will be confirmed by your doctor. Not only that, the doctor will regularly review your indication to continue the treatment. So that is the first thing. So take it or give it only if it is absolutely necessary and when the benefits are there. So that is the first thing. Secondly, we spoke about when you start it, how to stop it. So one important message is not to stop them abruptly. If you are a patient who's on long-term steroids, do not stop them abruptly. Because I told you, your adrenals are in hibernation. They are sleeping. They can't naturally suddenly adapt to produce it naturally. So if you completely take off your outside steroid supply from your body, then your body goes into this adrenal crisis with shock. So this is an emergency, so not to push you there. So always, if you want long-term steroids, if you want to stop them as a part of your medical, disease, or if you were someone who was abusing it, and now that you have learned it is not good and you want to come out of it, you need to consult a doctor. Tell that you took it for this long, and the doctor will give you the regime how to reduce it and come out of it safely. So not to stop it abruptly. Then also, like when you take steroids, the timing of the day is important. Naturally, our stress levels, unless you are doing a night shift, naturally your stress levels are more in the morning. So steroids, in our normal human body will also be higher in the morning and they will dip towards the night. So when you are taking steroids from outside, it would be a good idea to replicate this natural thing. So a doctor, when they prescribe, they will always try to give a larger dose in the morning and maybe no dose in the evening, or if they're giving an evening dose, it will be a lesser dose compared to the morning dose. So timing of the day, the dosing, your doctor will guide and you have to take it accordingly. And also try to take it after meals. I told you steroids can upset your tummy. It can erode your tummy. It can cause you to bleed in the worst case. So always take it after a meal so that you do less harm. And also your doctor might put you on, gastroprotection, that is drugs to protect your tummy from eroding. So if your doctor has prescribed them, do take them so that you don't upset your tummy and push you to a bleeding situation. Then also, when you're on long-term steroids, I think it's a good idea to adopt a healthy lifestyle. Now, this has broader benefits. I think in several sessions we have spoken about this. So, monitoring for blood sugar regularly, because it can increase your blood sugar, and also a healthy lifestyle by means of reducing the carbohydrate intake, your dietary modifications to keep your blood sugars, cholesterols under check, because I have mentioned steroids can push you to diabetes. So these are few things that you can do on your side. Then I think if one thing that you need to take home from this discussion, one important safety measure is something called sick day rules. So sick day rules, as the name tells, on a day that you are sick, there are certain set of rules that a patient who's on long-term steroids need to follow. Now, why you need them? Because I told you when you are encountered with additional stress, like a sickness or a surgery, you need extra steroids in your body. And your natural adrenal gland can't do that. So you can get pushed to adrenal crisis. Therefore, there are a set of rules that a person in their own home can follow, which they should know. So one thing is, if you are on a steroid dose, if you get a major illness with fever, you double the dose by yourself. Your doctor will also advise on this. So because now you need to increase, intake of steroids, you double it by yourself and then go to doctor. So even in the time that you are waiting for a consultation, you can be pushed to an adrenal crisis. So patients who are on long-term steroids, they should know this. And they should double their steroids when they have an intercurrent illness with fever. And if you are vomiting as a part of illness, soon after you take the tablets, if you vomit within 30 minutes, you can take extra dose. And if you have recurrent vomiting where you can't keep down anything, then you have to immediately go to the hospital. And then you can double the dose, you can take extra dose if you vomit, and then you have to immediately seek medical advice. So this is an important sick day rule. And also if you are going for a surgery, you have to tell your surgeon that you are on long-term steroids. Then your surgical and anesthetic teams will adjust your steroid requirement accordingly. And it is a good habit to wear something called steroid bracelet. So this is a sort of a sign that you are on long-term steroids. There are steroid bracelets which you can wear in your hand, or you can have it in your neck, and you can have a steroid card in your purse. so that even if you come in adrenal shock where you won't be able to give your story to the doctors, if they see this, they know you were on long-term steroids, and they will immediately replace your steroids and save your life. So it is a good habit to wear the steroid bracelet if you have one. Otherwise, look into getting one. Then we spoke about, out of the sick day rules, that you need to double the doses. So if you are a patient who comes to a hospital clinic and get your month worth of or 2 months worth of drugs, which includes steroids. Now imagine if you have to double the dose in between, the next visit, and then you'll be short supply towards the end. So what we always advise our patients who are on long-term steroids is keep a bit of an extra stock of steroids, because if you need to double, you need to have a bit of extra stock. So always have your steroid stock slightly, more than what is required for that duration of time. So these are sick day rules, and you need to be, knowledgeable about these sick day rules.
A final question, doctor. From what age would a doctor prescribe steroids? Would children require them? I know you're not a pediatrician, a physician, but still, would you be able to tell us that?
Yes, exactly. So steroids are needed from birth to death. So obviously, pediatric conditions, even the similar conditions which we discussed, which can manifest during pediatric age groups, you treat with steroids, including asthma. So yes, it is needed, and if it is given as an essential part of your treatment, you should continue it, and your doctor will monitor for the side effects and come off them as we have discussed. And also, just to add before we wrap it up, you have to keep your vision checked, because it can cause you to have cataracts. So going annually, or when the time is due to your eye doctor, and getting your vision checked is also important, and also keeping your skin under check, especially for groin rashes, armpit rashes. So any fungal rashes, you have to be vigilant. And also bone health. So exercising help you there, and also your doctor might put you on calcium and vitamin D supplements, and you need to take them thoroughly so that your bone health remain optimal while you are on steroids when it is needed.